Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to watch 90 Day Fiancé and see if anything of interest comes out of my face.
I'm paying their rent right now. I'm helping pay for food. I mean, there's no one else to help them.
You got a job at a resort, right? So, he's getting a paycheck, right?
Right.
And then you're still helping with bills on top of what he's earning?
It sounds like the cousins are like, whoa, you're giving him and his family a lot of money? That must mean that he's up to no good. It could mean that, but it also just could mean you're helping out a friend. If your spouse, for example, lost their job for whatever reason, and you were making good enough money that you could, say, pay all the rent or give them something nice, or maybe your spouse's family was struggling and you had enough money to share, wouldn't you share that money? I mean, not everyone would, but many people would. So both can be true. Now, of the couples so far, we have very little information about the way in which Stephanie and Ryan are together. We haven't seen enough to know, are they really in love? Or is there evidence of them being in love? What kind of person is Ryan? So we just don't know. Is Ryan up to no good? Maybe. Or maybe Stephanie is just helping out her future husband in terms of paying his bills and his extended family. There's nothing wrong with that. Both can happen at the same time. You can help you can ask someone for help financially. You could be like, if you could help me financially and my family, that'd be great. And at the same time, you could be legitimately in love with someone. But I guess we'll find out together.
Oh, I happen to have a friend that owns a resort there. And so I called and said, give him the job and I will pay his wages.
You're okay, does he know that you are paying his wages?
No, he doesn't know that.
All right. So at first, it sounds a little weird that she would be paying his wages. I don't know what I think about it. On one hand, if she were just to hand money to him, the whole thing is just dependent on Ryan's true feelings. Is Ryan scamming Stephanie? Or is Ryan legitimately in love and they just have this arrangement? But the primary problem that I'm hearing here is more deception. By not telling him the arrangement and then talking about it on reality TV, for which he will find out eventually, then you're lying by omission. And this is not a good sign. What would be wrong with telling him, oh, by the way, just let you know that job you have, here's the arrangement that we have. And what would she be worried about? Well, I imagine he might be worried like, well, wait, so why don't you just give me the money? Why do I need to work for it? And then maybe she has a legitimate thing there. She's like, well, I just don't want to give you just money. I want you to show that you want to work for it. I want to show that you have responsibility before I get, when you come up here to the States, I want to make sure that you have a good work ethic. And if I just give you money, there's no way for me to know if you have that. I don't know. That seems like a weird thing to do also. But maybe she has her reasons, but provide those reasons. Give him a chance. But to just lie to him is destructive, because if this is going to be an ongoing relationship, Ryan's going to be like, so you lied to me about having sex with my cousin. You lied to me about paying my wages, or you withheld that information, which is lying through omission. What else are you lying to me about? And are you always going to be lying to me? That's just not a good pattern to develop. One, because deception isn't very helpful to a relationship and it's not fair. And two, it's not going to help with trust.
Better that than me sending the family money. This way he has some self-esteem.
All right. So, of course, I'm remembering my speculations last time that she is his mother. Now, I always say there's nothing wrong with an age difference. But when you have an age difference, there is a risk of exploitation, and there's a risk of developing a dynamic where one person is the overfunctioner and one person is the underfunctioner. One person is the mom, one person is the son. And when it's rigid like that, then usually bad things happen. And as I've talked about before, nearly every couple that I treated had a dynamic like that. So it's a very common thing. It's usually not this noticeable or this exaggerated. Usually it's people that are the same age, and one person just tends to be more of the adult in the house and the other person has more of the kid or youthful energy. And when that becomes rigid, there's always conflict around that. You know, the kid in the house is like, why are you always so uptight? And then the adult in the house is like, why are you always so immature and irresponsible? When in an optimal relationship, you can spontaneously adjust as time goes on. Some days you're the kid, and some days you're the adult, or some days you're both the adult, some days you're both the kid. And there's flexibility based on getting your needs met and respecting each other's wishes in the moment. But anyway, so we've seen a few yellow flags of Stephanie feeling as though she is Ryan's lover, future wife, and also his mother, in that she talks to his mother as if they were conferring about a child. There was that kind of energy. It wasn't a slam dunk, but it had that kind of direction, sort of. There were some other indications too. I can't remember what from last episode, but we just heard another one where she's like, well, I want him to build self-esteem. I want him. Now, there's nothing wrong. You know, I want my wife to have good self-esteem. I want my wife to feel like she has power in the world or something like that. So wishing good things for your spouse isn't strange, right? But going about it this way is a similar way that you would go about it. Oh, I remember what it was last episode. He was flirting with a lot of women, and she caught him a number of different times. And the way she phrased it was very similar to the way a parent would phrase it about their children. The way a mother would say something like, well, you know, my son, he says he doesn't smoke pot on the weekend, but I don't know. I think he might be smoking a little bit of pot. So parents will have that attitude that, well, you know, my kids, they lie to me sometimes, but you know what? I'm watching you, you know, that sort of attitude. It's normal. But you don't usually have that dynamic with your spouse. Usually you're hoping for an open communication relationship where both people are on equal level and both people are responsible for the other person instead of only one person being responsible. So it looks like we have another piece of evidence here of how she's saying, well, the reason why I'm not just giving him the money is because I want him to develop self-esteem in the same way that you might do with a teenager, right? This is very common. Well, I don't want to just give him an allowance, so he needs to do his chores, and then I will give him the money. So,
I think we're just worried about you. Like, we just don't want it to be for the wrong reasons, and we don't want it to end badly for you.
I love him enough that I'm willing to take this risk. Bottom line, it's my choice. I get to choose, and this is who I choose to bring over here and try and build a life with.
So I'm guessing this has occurred to some of you, but it just occurred to me. And there's elements of pathology and elements of health or just non-pathology in this, in that it's possible that, you know, she doesn't have any kids. And it's possible that there's a part of her that wants kids. There's a part of her that wants to have that maternal side of her enacted or something. And through this relationship, she can get a number of different things. She can get both a romantic partner and someone that she can embody her maternal energy that she wants to give to people, or her parental energy that she wants to give someone. Yeah, this happens sometimes. Sometimes this happens when you have a divorce and then an empty nest, and then the person misses their children and will marry someone that exhibits a childlike persona, and the empty nest is now not so empty anymore. Not only do you have a spouse, but you also have a child that you can take care of. And like I said, there are elements of non-pathology here. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It might look a little strange and it's a little taboo, but it's not inherently problematic. You can, you know, all couples start with challenges, and this would present a challenge. But anyway, but obviously there could be a problem there, right? If you were rigidly in that position, what ends up happening is, ideally, optimally, in most cultures, when you're married, you care about each other, you alternate between who's taking care of the other person. You both feel responsible for each other. And but when you have a configuration where it's always this way, then this person ends up having a lot of freedom, and they get a lot of their needs met because the parent is often watching and making sure that they're taking care of this person. But this person feels like they're an underling. They also feel resentful of the power that this person has, and they will rebel often, and they often have a lot of passive aggression. This person, they get closeness and they get power, but they never really get a true partner, and they miss that. They want someone who's going to take care of them sometimes, and so this person often will miss out. Now, why would people do this? Well, usually it's because they're afraid for whatever reason due to past traumas, and Stephanie has talked a little bit about her past traumas, that make it so that we don't believe that we can actually interact on a mutual level with someone. That to try to have a mutual respecting relationship is doomed for failure. That it, of course, will never work, or it's too vulnerable and it's too open to weird things happening. Whereas if I lock in this child boyfriend, it'll feel more safe to me in some way. Maybe even someone from another country who depends on me for a green card and money, maybe that feels more safe to me. This is a speculation that I've had about some of the people on this show, that they have had a lot of attachment insecurity in their life. They've tried to date, it didn't work out, so they're not getting any attachment security in their life. And it's tempting to believe that if I find someone who needs me for one reason or another, then my attachment security will be fulfilled because the person needs me. They can't live without me. And there's a lot of different roads to that neediness. One is financial or green card, but there's emotional as well. There's a lot of different ways in which you could look for someone, or once you start dating someone, feel like, oh, this person doesn't just like me, they need me. Like they depend on me. They can't survive without me. And that can be very tempting. And I've worked with couples as they transition out of that, where they grew up with a lot of trauma, they meet each other, and they overfunction and underfunction. And they both came from trauma, remember that. And they do these rigid roles. The underfunctioner very much needs the other person, and the overfunctioner comes across like they're in control and they know what's happening. And the benefit is that the underfunctioner feels like, oh, I have a mommy or a daddy to take care of me, someone that I've never really had, which feels good. I feel protected by this person because I'm investing so much into that person, and they seem to really know what's going on. And this person acts like they know what's going on, and maybe they are kind of competent. But what this person gets out of it is, oh, this person needs me so much they can't leave me. And so when I go to bed at night, I rest well because I know that this person, even if they wanted to leave me, they couldn't because they need me so much, and they talk about how much they need me so much. Now, what this will do is it'll create some stability in the beginning, some homeostasis, but eventually it causes friction, usually. Because this person, the overfunctioner, feels like, I don't really have a person who loves me. This person just needs me. It feels good because this relationship isn't going to end because the underling will never leave me, but it doesn't feel fulfilling. I don't feel like this person loves me or respects me as a peer. I feel like they're using me as an overfunctioner. And that feels bad to this person. To the underfunctioner, they usually will rebel in some ways, sometimes cheating. And so what this person will say is like, I just feel like I'm being controlled. They'll have that kind of language. And so there's a lot of different reasons why this person would be upset. But anyway, they come into therapy, and I help them transition to a more mutual relationship. And that can take a long time. We have to work on all their traumas. We have to work on essentially breaking the relationship up and then reuniting them in a new configuration. It's hard to kind of wrestle it like this. Usually you have to break it up and then have them come together in a new configuration. Then there's always this tendency for them to go back to this. And it takes a long time, but it can be done. And I've seen couples prevail over it and do a lot of work. A lot of what it means is the overfunctioner needs to become vulnerable. The overfunctioner needs to admit that they don't know what's happening all the time. The overfunctioner needs to stop focusing on the underfunctioner and their life and constantly looking for like, what is he up to or what's she up to, and criticizing and having it in their head that they're responsible for watching the underfunctioner. The underfunctioner has to realize that they have responsibilities for their spouse, that they have power. they don't necessarily know that they have power, but they tremendously do have power. They can make or break their spouse's life. And to step into that power and to feel like they can and to wrestle with a lot of their demons. The underfunctioners typically have a lot of demons that they're wrestling with, a lot of trauma that they're dealing with. Anyway, so that's why people do it. And I wonder if Stephanie and Ryan are falling into that because of those reasons. I don't know. Let's see if we get any data along those lines. If you haven't become a patron of the podcast yet, you can do so now. You go to patreon.com, become a patron of the podcast. That's how we know you like what we're doing. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.